literally begin with a period. And by convention in Linux, anything that starts with a dot, Mac OS 2 is hidden. You don't see it when you type ls or double click a folder. But this is all like preferences and cache files and temporary stuff that programs just put there. So you don't really see it. But what I care about is this one. At the very top, notice that there's a folder called dot. What does dot represent? Your current directory. So dot means this directory. So I'm in my home directory. So this very top line means I own my home directory, jharvard. That makes sense. I'm in the students group. We know that. But notice I have the ability to execute this directory, but it turns out I need to let the rest of the world into my home directory too. I don't want them to have readability. I don't want the R, because I don't want them to see what files I have in my account, but I at least want them to be able to open it, so to speak, so as to visit it on the web. So to fix this, I'm going to do chmod, a plus x, and I can solve this in a couple of ways. I can say dot, because I'm in the directory I care about. I can say tilde, because that represents my home directory too. Enter. That hopefully fixed that problem. Now let's go back to my browser and reload. My first web page on the internet. Well, not really the internet, on my computer. So that's progress. So notice, I'm in a browser. I'm actually telling the browser to talk to localhost as though it's a server, even though localhost is a special name that refers to my own computer, my own appliance. Tilde jharvard means go into the jharvard guy's account and specifically go into his public HTML. So the web server knows that tilde jharvard actually means John Harvard's public HTML directory. And this, frankly, is a little confusing. You might recall from psets and whatnot that you very often type things like cd plus tilde, or you might do something like ls tilde cs50 just to kind of poke around CS50's account. Tilde cs50, when you're at a terminal, refers to CS50's home directory. Unfortunately, when you're in a browser, tilde jharvard or tilde cs50 actually refers to those users' public HTML directories. So you just have to remember that it's different at the black and white window as it is in the browser. All right, so this is a very underwhelming web page. I feel like I didn't really need to go to Harvard for this. So let's kind of do better than this. So what can we do? Well, first, let's notice this. Let me go over to my own computer. So now I'm on my Mac. I'm using Chrome, and I have a brand new browser open here. And I've been visiting Rob's eyes again. OK. So let me go to this address now, http://localhost/tilde-jharvard, and then enter. So notice this does not work, because now when I'm on my Mac or when I'm on my PC, if I go to localhost, what's it's obviously referring to now? My own computer, the local host. But it turns out, and we've not needed to know this before, it turns out that your CS50 appliance has its own special IP address, a number of that form, w.x.y.z. You can always visit 192.168.56.50. And this is documented and will be on the next problem set, so don't worry about memorizing it. But notice that this might actually look a little creepily like the one at home, right? Not at Harvard, but back home. If you have your own personal router and you've ever seen your IP address, well, it turns out that any IP that starts with 192.168 is a private IP address. The world had the foresight to realize sometimes we don't want IPs to be publicly accessible on the real internet, so this is a private one that we adopted for our own purposes. So if I hit enter now, notice that now on my Mac, I can visit the appliance as though it's a random server on the internet with an IP address. And so now I'm kind of simulating using the internet. And what you'll find for final projects and psets, you all actually have accounts already on cloud.cs50.net, which is a server that's actually on the internet. You've probably seen this page before, where you can actually put your own accounts on here so that eventually you'll be able to have cloud.cs50.net/tilde-mailin, or if that's your username. Or more interestingly, for final projects, for just a few dollars if you want, you can buy your own domain name and actually change a crazy looking address like that to actually be something simple like isawyoharvard.com. In fact, when Tej made that website, she had it living on cloud.cs50.net in her own tilde so-and-so account, but we hid all of that details for her automatically so that she actually had a sexier URL that real people could actually remember. So this tilde stuff is really just useful for development purposes. So let's go back into the appliance. appliance, and let's actually start making this web page a little more interesting. So what are all of these things in turquoise? So each of these tags, it has an open tag and a close tag, and they again tell the browser what to do. Here's the title. Here's the body. Well, suppose we want to make things a little more interesting, and I actually want to make something bold. So I can say something arbitrarily like hello in bold as follows. Open bracket B, and then close bracket B over here. So again, notice the symmetry. B denotes bold. If I save this and then I go back to my browser, whether on my Mac or on the appliance, and reload, it's not quite a huge change, but now you can see the difference there a little bit. So let's actually go back into here and see if we can't make this a little uglier still. So let me go into body. And I want to change the background color. Like, this is a pretty lame web page, white background, black text. Let's try to do something more interesting. Well, it turns out that HTML tags can have attributes. Attributes modify their behavior, and they look like this. Name equals quote unquote value, where name is the name of an attribute and value is how you want to control the behavior of the tag. So this is not a real attribute and value pair. I need to do something legitimate like BG color for background color. And let's do something crazy like pink, quote unquote. Let me go back to my browser after saving, reload, and now it's starting to get hideous, right? So now, and let me just increase the font size artificially with my browser just by zooming in. I didn't fundamentally change the web page yet. Let's now see if we can make our text a little different. So making text a little different gets a little more complicated these days, but that's OK. I'm going to go ahead and do the following. I want to make this whole sentence or this whole phrase a different color. And so I can't really do this right now because I don't want to do this on the body tag just yet. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to start making more to this page than just one line of text. So I want to create what we'll call a division. And division just makes sort of an invisible rectangle, sort of like you might have if you're a newspaper editor just trying to lay out articles on a physical page. Div just says create a virtual rectangle here and apply a bunch of stylization all to this tag, all to this division at once. So I want to style this division of the page. Style equals quote unquote. So notice this is an attribute that's going to modify the behavior of the division of the page. And I'm not going to do anything just yet. No style for this element. I just want to do a little sanity check back in the browser to make sure that this division didn't change anything in a bad way. So I'm going to reload. And in fact, nothing bad has happened. Nothing visually has happened. But let's do this. Let me right click or control click on the web page. Go to view page source. And you can do this on any website on the internet. There is, in fact, my same page. But realize, and don't get confused, I'm in a browser now. I cannot start typing in Firefox to change the web page. I need to change it on the server, where in this case the server is the appliance itself. This is just read only. So let's now change the style here. Let's go into gedit again. And let me go and say, you know what? I want the color of this text to be, let's say, red. So notice the difference here. Anytime you're inside of quote marks, specifically inside of style attributes quote marks, you actually say what's called a property, colon, and then something else. And if this feels like this is all of a sudden becoming a lot to take in, honestly, like HTML is kind of really simple at the end of the day. This is, we've almost seen already all of the fundamental puzzle pieces, much like in Scratch. We spent like 20 minutes on Scratch, and then you just kind of poke around and see what other puzzle pieces there are. Same idea is going to apply here. We'll show you a number of tags this week and in section, but you'll then realize that Google is your friend, and you can find some other feature just by poking around or reading some manual. So I know from having read the manual that color, colon, red is going to do exactly that. So let me go back to my browser after saving. I'm going to reload. All right, so now it's getting a little hideous. So let's do another line of text. I'm going to go in here and say, goodbye world, exclamation point. Now I'm going to go back to my browser and save, and that's not really what I intended here. So we've got our first little hiccup. So why is this second line appearing on the same line as the very first thing I typed, do you think? It's the same paragraph. It's in the same division. Or more specifically, HTML is really kind of a dumb language by design. Like, if it will only make a browser do something if it tells the browser to do that explicitly. You can hit enter all day long, as I'll do here. Enter, 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 enter. Put a huge amount of space, right? Just kind of trying to make the browser notice my white space. But it doesn't have any effect. But if I view the source in Firefox, it's there. It's just being ignored. So I have to actually go back and be a little more explicit. If I actually want a line break, so to speak, I actually have to say something like BR, which is the tag in HTML for line break. So here too, you can see how HTML is very pedantic. It says, make this bold, stop making this bold. Put line break here, then the next line of text. But here too, a little bit of asymmetry. Notice that I don't have to do this. It's actually not wrong. You are allowed to do this. But this is just kind of stupid, right? It's a line break. It's either there or it's not. You can't sort of start breaking the line and putting stuff on the next line and then stop midway through, right? You either move the cursor down or you don't. So in this case, it's kind of an anomaly. This is an empty element, so to speak, that doesn't have or doesn't need a close tag. Now, as an aside, if you do read up on HTML online, and specifically a variant of HTML called XHTML, you'll see all sorts of conventions. And for HTML5, they simplified it. So what we just did here is right. Not all tags need to be closed. But let's save this. Let's go back to the browser here, reload. OK, so now it's getting a little more interesting visually. But this is not the web page I know. I kind of like going to websites because they're not dead ends. I can click on things. Well, let's actually go here. And let's say goodbye, world. Well, this is getting uninteresting. Let's get rid of this. Actually, let me save this. And we'll just put it down below so I don't delete all of our hard work. I'm going to make another division. And just as a test 1, 2, 3, I just want to see where this is going to end up. But what's nice about a division is it indeed makes a rectangle invisibly. So this next division or paragraph is lower on the page. So let's go over here and tweak this a little bit. Let's say here are some of my favorite websites. So I can do this, and then I can say cs50.net and facebook.com, save. But of course, you should know where this is going. This just looks atrocious, right? They're not clickable, first of all, and they're also not on this next line. So let's fix this in a couple of ways. Well, it turns out that HTML supports a bunch of features. Here's one that's somewhat arbitrary. There's something called an unordered list, UL. Let me indent this and close the unordered list. And it's unordered in that it's not going to have numbers associated with it. And then in front of each of these list items, I'm going to use the li tag. So we'll see in just a moment. Open li, close li, save, reload in my browser. OK, so it's still hideous, frankly. But you've seen the extent of my web capability. So this isn't all that far off. So here we have now an unordered list. But still, this is not hyperlinked, right? This is not going anywhere. So let's make a link. Well, this, too, is actually pretty easy. You can't just say cs50.net. You have to actually tell the browser, create a link to cs50.net. So the tag for that is the anchor tag, A. href for hyperreference, which just means URL, quote unquote, http : actually we use s, so : www.cs50.net. And then over here, I have to close the anchor tag. So even though I have an attribute on this anchor tag, the name of the anchor tag is just A. So when you close a tag, even if it has attributes, you don't copy and paste the attributes again. You just succinctly use the name of the tag. So let's do a quick save and see if I'm on the right track. Reload. So it's blue and kind of ugly and old school. But if I click this now, it actually does go to the course's website. Let me go back over here. Now we can do facebook.com as well. So let's zoom in here. So we can go href equals http facebook.com / and then over here we can close this tag. Or we can even, right? Well, no, watch this, myspace.com. So now that still works. So notice this dichotomy, and herein lies a wonderful opportunity for social engineering attacks. So all of us have probably gotten emails from PayPal saying, please change your password, or even from harvard.edu webmaster or whatever saying, please fill out this form and tell so we can reset your password. As of now, realize it is pretty trivial to make a web page or even make an HTML-based email that says one thing and goes somewhere else. Case in point, this is what myspace.com apparently is these days. So if we go back here, notice the dichotomy. So it says, obviously, facebook.com. But if I hover over this link, it's going to be a little small. But notice there are some telling signs. This is actually going to take me to myspace.com. And that's because the destination is decoupled from the actual label. So if you've ever been the recipient of some phishing attack where clicking a link actually takes you somewhere illegitimate, that's